1 year.
An active member for 20 years.
We as military veterans do hereby affirm our greater responsibility
To serve the cause of world peace. To this end, we will work with others both nationally and internationally.
To increase public awareness of the causes and costs of war.
To restrain our government
from intervening overtly and covertly in the internal affairs
of other nations.
To end the arms race.
To reduce and eventually eliminate nuclear weapons.
To seek justice for veterans and victims of war.
To abolish war as an instrument of national policy.
To achieve these goals, members of Veterans for Peace pledge to use nonviolent means
and to maintain an organization that is both democratic and open,
with the understanding that all members are trusted to act in the best interests of the group
for the larger purpose of world peace.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Let's go scrolling. Here we go. Ready, get set, action.
We will use our anger at injustice as a positive, non-violent force for change.
We will approach every encounter with fellow members and the public with positivity and mindfulness.
And with the assumption that concerns raised are coming from a positive place.
And present a learning opportunity.
Our attitude,
as conveyed through our words,
symbols, and actions,
will be one of openness, friendliness,
and respect towards all people we encounter.
All members have an important role to play in Veterans for Peace.
Regardless of previous military rank, branch, or combat experience,
we will respect one another as equal parts of a whole.
We will not assault verbally, in person, or online anyone,
to include fellow members and those who oppose or disagree with us,
even if they assault us.
This does not preclude a member's right
to defend themselves
against a physical attack.
In keeping with our commitment to achieving our goals through nonviolent means,
there is an expectation that members will not carry weapons with them
to Veterans for Peace events
or while representing Veterans for Peace,
regardless of the laws in their location.
We will follow the directions of designated coordinators
during public actions
organized on behalf of Veterans for Peace.
We'll use democratic principles within our organization to ensure an open, fair, inclusive, and transparent environment.
We will speak as members of Veterans for Peace,
but not for Veterans for Peace,
unless designated as a spokesperson for Veterans for Peace.
All members are free to speak for themselves or on behalf of their chapter as appropriate.
Sexist,
racist,
homophobic,
ageist,
transphobic,
gender discriminatory,
and all other discriminatory language and actions
are common within the military.
They are not acceptable within Veterans for Peace.
Our words and actions will maintain
the political and financial independence of Veterans for Peace.
To achieve the above goals, we will also engage in active listening.
That is, fully concentrating on what is being said,
rather than passively hearing the message of the speaker.
Hi, my name is Lou Dog. Welcome to our Mindfulness Mondays. We're doing a climate talk today, and we're talking about COP26 and everything that should be done at COP26 this year because it's going to be on November 1st through the 12th. And what should we do as far as actions are concerned? Today, I have special guests, and introduce yourselves, special guests.
I'm Plantifa. I normally host the Military Ad Slam on Fridays, but I'm here now to talk about this. 5-year Marine Corps vet, and I'm not a fan of how militarism is inexplicably linked to the climate crisis. So yeah, let's talk about COP26. Why don't you go next, Sin? Oh wait, you have to because there's nobody else.
There's nobody else. Oh no. So mean.
Yeah.
Hi. My name is Sin, or Sincerely. I'm a Marine Corps vet, served 6 years, and now I'm the digital organizer for Veterans for Peace. Happy to be here doing this, having this conversation about COP26 and the planned stuff the government's going to do. Governments around the world are going to plan to do. Around the world. And we're actually joined by somebody else. So I'm going to admit now.
Ooh, yay. So I lied.
You did.
There is somebody else.
You did.
I did. I lied. Put me on the crucifix now.
Oh.
Hello. We don't have camera.
Hello.
Now we do. Well, we do. We had to wait for it to go on the other side. We're getting there.
Getting there. I don't recognize.
My roommates are yelling, and I don't know why. I don't want to check. I'm afraid I'll get caught in a conversation.
Get drawn into it.
The dogs aren't barking, so I'm just assuming everything is fine.
Yeah, usually when the dogs go crazy, it's like, all right.
Well, it could be a crisis, or it could just be that there was a dog outside.
problem. So it's basically where COP26 is and what it's supposed to do. And yeah.
Nice.
And something you touched on there is actually like I took a class on global development, and basically that's just like it was a class on how there's kind of like two sides of development, right? You have the developed countries and you have the developing world, and that's basically what the class was analyzing. And one of the biggest barriers to any sort of climate progress was this like contentiousness between the developed countries that already are industrialized, that already did all of that stuff, telling the underdeveloped countries, you need to lower your emissions. And there's this like balancing act that you have to kind of do, because how do you tell an underdeveloped country, an entire country, hey, we see that you're developing, but it's kind of an issue because we're all going to die. You need to stop doing that. But richer countries are not as willing to meet at that same level. And there's this idea of fairness, like, oh no, we should all be meeting at the same level. But it's kind of unfair to expect a developing country to reduce the same amount as an already developed country. So that's like, and that's one of the things that is being talked about in these articles about COP26, specifically with like India and Southeast Asia, which is developing again very, very quickly. Right. Which is definitely fueling the climate crisis. But how do you tell a country that is improving its material conditions for its population to stop doing that? So that's one of the things that we're probably going to really see play out at COP26.
Yeah, and how would they receive it too? You know, it's like,
exactly
like, hey, like you guys have to stop doing this, but like, okay, what are you going to do, already developed country? You know. So.
Right. And that's one of the things, like a lot of richer countries, particularly the UK and the US, do not want to agree to anything that doesn't have these countries agree to be drastically reducing their emissions. And sure, that's one thing. But at the same time, it's like we need to be drastically reducing ours much more than, say, Vietnam does, much more than Laos does. Like it's not fair to compare to pull them at the same level, because we're not at the same level. Like we're just not. So yeah, we're going to see
even with land mass alone, you have like this, you have Laos, and then you have the United States.
Right.
Yeah, like I think that's true, and like we really need to address all of them, and I think having every country at least agree to a percentage of emissions that you want to lower, at least now, should come into effect immediately instead of waiting until 2030 or 2050 or like however many years that, like, what I think Biden wanted to say 2050 and California is saying 2030, and we're like, I think 2030 is a little bit better than 2050, but I think maybe we could try to do something by 2025, like at least try to come up with something.
We're seeing the effects now. Like we were just talking about wildfire season and how that is a thing now.
That's literally our season. Refugees. Yeah, it's just like
literally happening. And we're not even at the point of like we need to prevent the worst from prevent this from happening. We're at the point where we're just mitigating the worst of it because it's inevitable now. Like it already is here. So we're trying to keep it under like a 3.7%, 3.7 degrees Fahrenheit, a 2% degree Celsius ish. We're trying to keep it under that. Like that's what this agreement is supposed to be about. It's not even to stop warming, because that's literally impossible at this point. And it's very upsetting that like, oh yeah, we'll do it. We'll lower it by 2050. Like, no, dude, we're gonna be dead. Sorry, that was a little bit of. I
mean, the caps will be melted by then.
Right.
It's like, come on, like. So like we need to come up with something now. So.
Yes.
So. There's an article, I have it up on screen for our audience to look at and follow along with, but it's everything you need to know about COP26, the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. This is from Yahoo News, came out today at 5 a.m. this morning. So after a summer of record-setting heat waves, hurricanes, and forest fires, public concern about climate change has reached an all-time high, leading to into the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, Scotland, which gets underway October 31st. The outcome of the summit, which is also referred to as COP26, may be the single most important factor in determining whether humanity suffers the worst consequences of climate change. This is an undersell. I'm going to put that out there. It's a fucking statement. It's an undersell. And because I read this article, spoiler, we're going to discuss how you'll see. Even by the standards of the United Nations, however, the conference promises to be confusing and complicated to follow. But understanding what is happening in Glasgow is key to knowing what the future may hold for life on Earth. To demystify the proceedings, Yahoo News has answers to some of the most frequent asked questions about COP26. What is climate change and why does it matter? Climate change is the apocalypse. We're trying to stop it at like 1.5 degrees Celsius, but we're blowing past that already. So we're blowing past that. And we're trying to keep it to below 3. 2.7 degrees Celsius, I believe, is the world ends and humanity dies.
Basically,
yeah. If you look at the temperatures for 2.7, it's like way high. It's like 170 degrees Fahrenheit, like what some of the coasts will be feeling. And it's like, wow, that's just no, we can't have that.
And there's already catastrophe before that point, right? Like, sure, that is definitely end all be all for the I don't want to say end all be all. Like, I'm sure there will be some like mitigations and ways that people can survive, but like it isn't just really about the temperature. It's like ocean expansion, completely eviscerating current coastlines. It's entire islands that will no longer exist. And that all brings a refugee crisis. That brings a humanitarian crisis, famine, droughts causing famines being exasperated by droughts, things like that. That is just kind of this ripple positive feedback loop. So that's really why, even these like minute averages, talking about 1.7 or rather 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius, that's why it's such a big deal, because it's not just about the actual degrees. It's about the effects of what that means. Stronger hurricanes, more frequent wildfires, more frequent droughts, more aggressive desertification and deforestation. So we're like this is obvious, but that's one thing that I think is missing from a lot of the conversation, at least in American politics, about climate change. They forget those things. They're like, the Earth is heating up, but that's not the only effect that we're going to see or are seeing.
Well, it's like we're already seeing all this, especially with the immigration processes. It's like all these people are coming from Guatemala, and all these people are coming from the equator countries, and it is like and even Haiti, like how Haiti was affected by so much, and they're like, we have to do something better to.
Oh, I can go off all day about what we've done to Haiti, like we being the U.S. has done to Haiti, and why they're such a mess. But that is a conversation for a different day.
I could have a soapbox too with France and the U.S. with how devastating they've done to the Haitian people. But I agree. It's just like we have to do better, because these things are coming. We've seen it. Like hurricane season lasts way longer than it usually has. Now we have a fire season, which like it used to be fall, spring, and winter. Now there's fire. So
we also
can't happen.
We also have a Krios who just joined us. Krios, you want to say hi real quick? Bring you in.
Hey everybody! I was going to sit back silently and let you guys keep going, because you were on a hell of a roll when I joined in. So I was like, I'm just going to mute and sit my happy ass down. Hi everyone! Thanks for letting me join. Sorry I'm a little late. I didn't realize the start time. Typical me. Anyway, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this. Fire season. East Coast doesn't really get fire season, but our hurricane season has definitely been affected. To kind of trail off where you were trailing into. So go back to talk about fire season, because
our fire season lasts a long time, especially here in California, because we have the Santa Ana winds, and those will kick off kick some embers into our dry lands as we have, because it's really like, thank God it's raining today, but in 3 more days, it's going to be 80 degrees. So like, clearly this is an issue. I mean, can you contribute this to the climate crisis? Absolutely. But will people believe it? But we're still trying. So
I got an angry cat in here now.
Oh no, we can't have an angry cat.
No.
You give it some snackos right now.
I have snackers in here. She pushed open the door.
Good girl.
So, Cargo, do you deal with the fire season? Have you had to deal with that yet?
Are you asking?
I was asking So and Cargo if they've had to deal with fire season.
No, I'm on the East Coast. But
You're East Coast also?
The only thing I've been kind of chewing on is how do you actually affect any of this change, And so I've heard people mention here they're politicians, which would mean changing U.S. law, right? So the hope is that the politicians can put brakes on what's happening, so that way they can enforce all the companies, all the people who are making the most significant impact on our climate and slow them down, right? But let's be real, how long does it take to get us to agree on anything? How long does it take us get anything? And then once we do, how well is it received? All these things, and they find loopholes, find this, find the third. I don't think politicians is the way to solve it. Obviously, that could be helpful to have our unified elected leaders to back us on something that we'd like to see change. But I don't see that being the way with a company aspect, with a profit aspect is how the other people see it to make them want to make a change. Also, the people who are at the top of these pyramids who get to make these choices don't really see it as an issue for them. Even though a lot of this can come up very quickly, a lot of them don't see it in a reality where it'll be their problem by the time they're alive.
It's hard to drown from the top of the tower.
Exactly. And they'd be the ones in the safest bunkers with the greatest environmental situation they could have, So it's hard to make them care. And it's that's what I've been thinking about, is how to make them care. And I don't know the answer. I have this awesome boss who loves talking eco everything and sustainability everything. And she's the one who's made me want to compost the most, do the most, I can. And then this year, lovely, she gave a talk and she was like, yeah, each American contributes roughly 16 tons of waste each year, which is so much waste when you think about how much a ton is, and each of us use about 16. But she also followed it up with the percentage margin that is for the total waste America does, and basically said it's pointless for you to do anything because it's not us, it's not the individual consumer, it's the companies, it's the larger mecca that does it. And for me, I still do it even after that talk. And I think it's because the power we have is to change things socially, to make the people who do have those choices see that this is what the fabric of the country they're a part of, or the communities they're a part of, care about, and then make those changes. Obviously, it's hard to convince someone to not make money. That's how our world goes. But I think if we can start and make a community that doesn't, that has values and will make sacrifices day to day, then it will eventually work. But how far gone will we be by that time? Sorry, that was a lot, but those are the thoughts I was sitting on and chewing on.
No, that's actually really good. That's actually what keeps me going is hope that people actually do what you're doing. And thank you for bringing that up, because that actually, I was even telling Sin, what keeps me driven is hope. So
it takes us into what I was going to say. Sorry to cut you off, Lou. I just wanted to tie in something directly off what Sewing Cargo was saying. The next thing that's said here in this article is down who's going to be there. There's 197 countries participating, but then there's this paragraph. The delegates will likely be outnumbered by the legions who come to influence them. Corporations and advocacy groups will set up shop in a giant pavilion on the inside and host panels and press conferences, while environmental activists, and many of them being young, are planning rallies, marches, and other events near the conference. The people that are most being affected by the decisions that are being made in that room do not have the influence on the people in that room during this process. In fact, the corporations that benefit from maintaining the status quo and making sure that we're limiting ourselves while nations agreed to Paris to limit the global warming to 2 degrees Celsius from the pre-industrial average in Paris Climate Agreement. The corporations have been working feverishly to to ignore that, blow past it. They don't care, profit motive. And the people that are trying to cause change are outside and ignored by the politicians that they're supposed like that the politicians are serving the people outside, and people outside don't have a voice inside that room, but corporations and billionaires do. And it just speaks volumes to the ineffectiveness of our populations relying on COP26 to actually address the climate crisis that we're facing right now, instead of advocating for adaptability changes and things like that, and making the structural societal changes that we need to be doing, and letting Biden's administration kind of try to walk towards a pre-Trump position while maintaining and changing nothing that Trump did. So we accelerated climate crisis in America. Trump pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord, and then America is coming in, and big military energy is coming in and going, we're just going to maintain status quo. And look, we're back in on the agreement, but not a single policy has been changed from what Trump did over the course of really anything. And we know that he's not changing anything. We're in the middle of watching the Green New Deal, like the Reconstruction Act, just get torn apart by his own party.
Yeah,
by his own party. I have
think
another.
That's what I'm. Yeah.
Yeah, we have another article about Joe Manchin we'll get into in a couple minutes, but it's really aggravating. It's really aggravating looking at this.
There's always been the saying, if you think politicians are there for the people, not the business, you're wrong. It doesn't matter what side of the coin they're on. They're always there for the better of the business. Just some are more open about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'm most afraid about with COP26 is that it's going to be these platitudes, right? These agreements that are flowery and lovely, just like a lot of what 90% of what the UN does. But putting that into actual action is actually the tougher part. I want to acknowledge what X-Charger said in the chat. Making these day-to-day sacrifices increases one's commitment to the cause and helps build pressure on the institutions whose changes can make wholesale impacts like governments, corporations, etc. I wholeheartely agree. I do think like those little everyday things that we all as people, individuals can do really can make that sort of impact, especially like businesses are going to go where the demand is. If the demand is on all of the sustainability, that is where it's going to start to be pushed. However, we do also have to remember that, like, yes, individual actions are great. I'm not saying to not do them. Please absolutely do them. But I think Sewing Cargo was kind of getting at this. How do we actually do that? I don't want to be like, we need a general strike, like one of those like leftist Twitter people, but like we kind of need a general strike. And so that's kind of where my brain is at. Like, I think the only thing that is going to actually get the top, and you know what I mean when I say the top, to listen and not just think that their wealth is going to completely shield and pacify them from the crisis, is something like that, is to bring all of the industry to its knees. But I don't think we're even going to get there unless we have the conversation about like militarism's relationship to the climate crisis. I think we need to like start talking about that soon.
Thankfully, we do have legislation on Barbara Lee's desk that makes DOD's responsibility for emissions, which for their reporting of emissions. So nice. Thankfully, we do have that. It's on the desk of legislation. So we're starting to make progress on that process. So
good.
So at least we're looking now for co-sponsors and
yay.
So like there's movement, but it's a slow movement. Don't get me wrong, but at least there's things that are in place where that state that the military has to stop, or at least report on the emissions that they're doing. They're not even reporting. So like these are the things that have to be done in order to, because I mean the amount, I mean we all seen it. Like I worked on F-18s. I know the amount of fuel that consumes. Like we all seen these big ass planes. They all consume a lot, and then
ships.
it just Yeah,
Just
it's
ships.
just
Oh yeah. Gee,
Oh,
Not even
yeah,
any of
just
the stuff on them, just the
like
ships.
the Navy consumes a ton of oil.
Yep.
It's just like all these things like they have to start reporting off of, and it's like they don't. It's just like you just kind of like think like, oh yeah, like everything's clean around here. No, it's not.
Nope.
So
No,
yeah.
if the Pentagon was a country, it would be, I think it was the 55th worst polluter in the world. If it was its own country, and just the DoD, like just the military, just all of that stuff, is more of a polluter than all of New Zealand, all of Sweden, all of, I think, Finland as well. A couple other countries that I don't have memorized, but like we are, the DoD itself is a terrible polluter and a huge driver of the crisis in general.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that number, that 55th polluter in the world, a country-sized polluter in the world, is based only off of oil purchases. It is not an actual like analysis of the actual impact to the climate, to the environment that over 700 military bases has, of the energy sources where that's coming from, of our waste going into waterways or into the environment, of burn pits. It is not looking at Agent Orange from Vietnam and using that as a defoliant, and the cost of life, all life, animal life, plant life, human life. All that has had. It's not analyzing the missiles that get misfired and dropped into oceans. It's not it's not evaluating bomb test sites, or the amount of drones that were flying, or the development and all of the tanks and the mineral extraction for tanks and machines of war that sit empty and unused in deserts, or that get cycled down to our local police departments, then used against our population. None of that. The 55th largest pollutant in the world, as like on the scale of nations, the 55th largest nation is the United States military, and that is only based off of purchasing oil, not off of anything else that it does at all.
So it's not how much we're actually polluting, that's just how much we purchase.
Yes.
So imagine how much we're actually fucking polluting as a result of that, or what's being polluted as a result of us purchasing it, like the before and the after this.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There, and then like that's on top of the greenhouse gas emissions, and the DoD fails every inspection that they have, every single one. It doesn't matter what it is, they always fail, and nobody says anything about it. Like, oh, whatever, they failed again.
Like nothing's done. It's just kind of like,
nothing is
whatever.
done. It's like, hey,
we did the audit.
The audit got done, but you failed. Like, what should we do about it?
Congrats. You just failed slightly better.
Yeah, and think like just how many bases we have all around the world, and there's like 197 countries, but we have several hundred bases.
Yeah.
All of those need to be powered. All of those need to have heating and cooling. All of those have other activity like cars being driven on it, transportation within the base. Like all of these things still contribute to that. So if we factor that in, how much more does it go up? Like the simple fact that we have a military presence on basically every continent, I think, except Antarctica. Am I right on that?
I think there might be a little presence there.
I mean, yeah, there is, because I know we have scientists there and crap, but I don't actually know if we have a military,
an official military base. I don't think so.
I don't, but we do everywhere else. So.
Official military base.
Right.
If depleted uranium rounds that were used in the Second Battle of Fallujah are causing the highest rates of birth defects amongst in a population, which it is, we've been seeing this. Studies have shown this. What do you think it's doing to their groundwater and their environment that they're living in? Is that not climate impact? That's the spent shell casings and the impacts of the rounds that we fire in war.
Right.
Like. Exactly. Does that not count as contributing to climate change? And why has it sat for so long? If I'm remembering correctly, Exxon knew in was it 78 that Exxon had the report that showed that they were aware of climate change? 78, early 80s,
it was
something
around
that time.
It was before 78, but it was mid 70s,
it was around
I
78,
think.
79.
Yeah. Okay. So we've known this. We've known this. I remember being in elementary school. I went to Catholic school till 4th grade. I remember in 4th grade in Catholic school having a TV wheeled into my room and watching a little documentary about climate change, and it was talking about like styrofoam and shit like that. But I remember that. I remember it. So we fucking knew. We knew this entire time, and nobody in the government, nobody's been like, maybe we should wonder about how much the military is impacting this. No, that never once. But the military's the military's also been the largest ones proposing adaptation for climate and warning about climate change, because they've been worried about having to fight water wars and have been talking about it for the longest time. But they don't stop to think that, like, oh shit, maybe we're the ones contributing to the climate wars that we're really anticipating.
It kind of speaks to this. Is anyone familiar with the idea of elite panic? So elite panic is kind of in the idea of like, there's a disaster. The elite or those in charge tend to think that, oh no, well, okay, everyone is going to be an absolute animal, and we're gonna have to really, really control the regular populace, because they're just gonna like start killing each other like the purge, right? When like pretty much every sociological study has shown that to be completely untrue. Like, at times of crisis, people just help each other out as opposed to start killing each other. But the elite panic is this like idea that the opposite happens. That like everyone's going to kill each other. So what do people do, or what does the elite do during crisis? They increase police presence. They increase security and have people be controlled into small, tiny like choke points. Right. Look at Katrina. Look at any other hurricane. Things like that happen. They like, oh yeah, and there might be some problems that happen. Of course there are. Is there going to be looting? Well, is it really looting if the store is flooded anyway and you're taking food? Probably not, but that's not the way that, the people are in power are thinking. So that is kind of what the military is doing on a grander scale. Instead of looking at like, oh, how do we fix the problem? It's, oh crap, we got to get ready to shoot some crazy people. So I think that at its core, that's kind of what where the military is coming from in terms of like preparing for the water wars. They're not preparing for the problem; they're preparing for the effects.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
What I think is kind of crazy is the mindset the military has, or honestly the world. They can prepare like infrastructure details for like 50 years out. They can prepare battle plans in developing nations and things of like where they should be worried about like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and the kind of scale we should use to be able to be prepared for the in the moment response. But if they just shifted their mindset a little bit to prevention and a little bit away from the reaction they're going to need, like, dear God, they have the critical thinking skills. That's not lost. They're not dumb. They have the resources. They have the research methods. Like they have the ways to do this. They just focus again on reacting and for when it comes, and not how can we stop it.
Yeah, if we could be more proactive.
Like certain ultimate truth. Exactly. We need to be a little more proactive.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Like, if we were a little more proactive, I think things would be a lot different. But
yes.
Yeah. They don't want to take that look into it.
It just boggles me that like we could look 50 years ahead for something and be like, okay, we need to prepare for this. This is going to be very serious, and they can't see that with climate change. Like, I don't know. It just bugs me.
Yeah,
I guess because they don't see it affecting them day to day. I also think we were talking about this earlier, but how like it kind of feels like, well, if they're not doing it, I'm not going to do it kind of mentality. Where like, yes, it is a world issue. Yes, there are things that will affect the world, but it also gets worse wherever the worst is being done. So like, America will suffer faster in some ways than other countries will, because we are doing a lot more polluting right where we are, So I think it'll start to become apparent when it starts to impact the day-to-day. When, like right now, we're talking about healthcare and all the things. You have to wear a mask every single day, and all these little things that you have to do. And like, then there's pushback, then there's thought, then there's developing plans. But until they have to they can't go to work because they can't afford gas, like when it's $10 a gallon, or like when it's something like that, like that's when they'll actually start to do something.
That's true. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we're in the middle of watching the supply line start to affect the American population, which we're starting to see that, and it's going to continue to happen because it's not actually being rectified, and with the Great Resignation occurring, more and more people aren't working. So we're right at a point where we're trying to have the population of of the United States is advocating for some change, and it's very disorganized and everything. But climate change is coming around the corner, and with the healthcare concerns, like someone Cargo was saying, like when I'm looking for masks, I'm looking at dust filters and things like that in the near future. I am looking at what plants I should be planting outside, not for my current climate, but the climate that I can anticipate in 5 years. As I was reading, there's an organization here in PA that does teaches you how to do tree stuff. I forget the name of the organization. I just started looking into them.
Tree stuff.
It's a tree stuff thing. But
tree stuff.
Everybody loves tree stuff.
Okay.
Planting trees, taking care of them, managing them, understanding like their role in the environment, and trying to take back some like community spaces here in the cities around us, right? But they're starting to look at like getting varieties of trees that are native to this area, like southern varieties that are from warmer climates, because they're anticipating that like we're already going to hit 1.5 degrees Celsius change. So the climate that's going to be here in 1.5 degrees Celsius change over the next 10 years is kind of like further south, like Virginia, closer to Virginia, a little bit further south, right? So they're trying to anticipate to adapt to the change that has already occurred, and that we're still playing like we haven't even taken into account yet. Like we haven't actually started talking adaptability. We're still talking about sustainability, about how do we keep the status quo of things that we currently have so that we don't have discomfort without having to change anything. And people, I think there's populations in the United States that are sitting here going, we're past sustainability. We're now at adaptability. We are changing lifestyle, locally changing our individual lifestyles in order to adapt to the climate that is going to be hitting 3 degrees Celsius within 20 years. Because COP26, the people inside the room at COP26 just removed the Clean Electricity Performance Program because one senator out of West Virginia is in the pocket of coal. And so our government's not making the change, and they're not going to be advocating for the change or planning or organizing the change at COP26. So we need to start locally doing through community aid, mutual aid, and start developing the adaptable systems, the adaptable things that we do in response, so that we as people, as the human beings in this society, can continue to live and survive and advocate for the change, make it better.
Yeah. And for people who still to this day don't think that climate change is serious or is a real thing, at this point I'm in my mid-30s. I'm that millennial generation. I remember, and I'm from the mid-East Coast, born, raised, been here my whole life. We used to have winter. We used to have actual winters when I was a kid. Like we would take cars out onto the frozen river and drive them in circles and like demo derby on the fucking river. It was so cold in Maryland and Delaware and Pennsylvania. Now, if it even freezes, it's a shock. Like, yeah. So for those who haven't been paying attention, don't look small time. If you look year to year, you don't see it. It's like if you're trying to lose weight and you step on the scale every day, you don't see it. But you step on that scale that once a month, or you look back at the previous months, then you see the change. If you look back the last 34 years, there's been a huge change across these climate zones, and it's not good. Ultimately, at the end of it, it's not good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like me being in California, I see it all the time because, just recently, like last year, we were almost completely out of water, and I live in a basin, and that's horrible to live in a basin when you have no water coming to you. So, yeah, but you're right. Like every region is being affected by this, and it's not just the Western region. It's not just the Midwest region. It's not the East Coast region. It's all regions around the world that it's being affected, and we have to start really paying attention and try to figure out how the fuck we're going to change this, because there even just recently, the Sunrise Movement has been doing something really cool. They put on the California Democratic Building that says contaminated with lease money and fossil fuel money, which was like, oh wow, they put the contaminated symbol. They projected the contaminated symbol on there, and it was really cool. And then and then you have these 4Us that are doing. They're on a hunger strike because they want to have change, and still Biden has yet to speak about that. And it is like, wow, like you give zero shits about what you promise. And that's what you're teaching these kids, that you give zero shits. And it's like things that have to change. It's not just the Republicans, it's not just the Democrats. Like all these politicians have to come to the table and be like, look, we need to figure something out because things are changing and things are changing fast. Yeah. And we got to do it.
Tell that to Mansion.
How nihilist do you think Zoomers are right now? Like,
oh man,
how like, do you think Zoomers are going to be as patient as millennials have been? Like,
no. And that's honestly
the Zoomers already on strike right now.
Zoomers are already exceeding us.
My TikTok shows me like either like Zoomers are going to advocate for change and bring about some of the best in the world, or Zoomers are going to force change, and that might be flambéed cocktails. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening in the future at this point. And like
in Minecraft,
I'm not advocating. I'm just saying that this is what I'm seeing in like Zoomer populations. I'm not advocating for violence. I'm a non-violent person. I'm just simply saying in Minecraft, I wonder what the fuck is going to happen in the near future, because it's insane. It's insane that we have 80-year-olds holding positions of power right now that are so hard on for imaginary paper money, like some imaginary currency, and stacking that because they're hoarding dragons, that they're going to burn the entire world.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what they do. I work at a college, so like I live in a residence hall. So like I see these students every day at their best, at their worst, and I'm very excited to see like that energy. I will say it really depends on the issue though. Like some things are like, oh God, you want me to have a conversation with a person? Especially the literal Zoomer generation, like the one who's had to be away for the last while. Like they don't know how to talk to a person. So like there's that sometimes. But then on the other hand, it's
that's what millennials are here for.
But on the other hand, they know how to be passionate though. Like the passion has gone up, so like it's that balance of how do we have this conversation. I feel like they're willing to stand up for something in a heartbeat. That's fine. But it's fighting for their own self, which is really weird. Like their own mental health, their own like peace, like that's not relevant.
No,
but
I'm just gonna
that
jump off the
person
cliff,
who's hurt over there, so like I'm very excited to see like the passion as it comes out. Like you're saying, Chris, like it's going to be one way or another. It's coming out, but like how it comes out, it's going to be a fun show.
Yeah, no, I honestly, one thing that it is giving me hope is the Zoomer generation. Like, sure, they might never they might never actually call to get a pizza unless there's an app. They'll use the app instead. So, you know what? I'm the same way. That's fine. But I've also watched a 17-year-old kid grab a live tear gas canister, like with their bare hands, and throw it back. So I have full hope.
100%.
I really think we're going to be okay. So
yeah, their passion is extremely high. Absolutely. And I appreciate it because it's like that passion can boil into great advocacy. And and we've seen it. Like I mean, there's 4 kids in front of the White House with a hunger strike, for Christ's sake. And it was like, wow, like that's commitment. And that's just like, wow.
I think we're like 4 hours without food, and those guys are like 4 days.
Right?
Yeah, they're like 4 days without food, and they're like, whatever. We're here.
Yeah, so power to them. I know that wasn't meant as a jab. That was actually meant as like a respect thing. Sorry, you kind of came across the wrong way, but yeah,
dude, if you get Zoomers to start hating us, dude, I'm giving them your address. I will dox you to keep them off my scent.
I will give it to them myself. I apologize, Zoomers. I'm on your side. Why do you think I don't show my face? No.
Plantify, do you want to talk about this No Warming, No War document that you shared with us? I pulled up on the screen real quick.
I read it very, very briefly, but basically what this study is, or this publication is talking about is, in terms of like sheer causal, the worst polluter or the worst like villain of climate change is war, in terms of like spending and how it reroutes any sort of spending to like public services and other things that you might domestically need that improve material conditions of your citizens. It reroutes money that could be going to there into the war machine, and then that in turn turns out more and more emissions and turns out more and more negative like things, pollution. I already said emissions. For some reason, words are difficult today. It was a Bones Day, but I'm sorry, Noodle, I did not feel that. But anyway, it's sort of like, because it's not just the sheer amount of like emissions and oil usage that a military in general would use, but it's in the way that the spending is rerouted over to that. And because like in the United States, we have such a hero worship culture of the military and of service members, it is so difficult to even have a conversation around limiting that, because you're like, oh, you don't respect the troops. Like, that's not what I said. What I said is that maybe the Pentagon shouldn't have an $8 billion budget when we're all gonna die. Like, but it's really difficult to have that conversation when it's politically unpopular to say anything against the war machine. So that's kind of what this study is looking at. Like, there was a line in here I wanted to talk about, but I have since gotten rid of it. But basically, its main points are: the Pentagon is a major polluter. The United States has a well-known history of fighting wars for oil, or for at least influence over the oil market. The United States is obviously not the only problem there. Britain has a huge history of it too. I'm not trying to only blame the U.S., but this is where we are. So, and that,
we lie in our pockets with our allies. It's fine.
Yes, yes, we do. Overinvestment in the military comes at a high cost of underinvesting in other needs, including climate. So that's kind of like what their main points are. The climate crisis and militarization are inexplicably linked.
Yeah, 100%. Militarism is definitely a huge cause. It's not the only cause, but it's definitely one of the highest causes for sure. Yeah. I hope a mass majority of other climate groups realize that militarism has to be one of your topics as well, instead of trying to just tackle off of corporations, because they're all getting money. So,
well, I mean, if you look at it, the military is just a company at the end of the day.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh no, I know you know that. I'm saying like, like people don't think about like that mindset.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, see it as a company.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. But it is. I mean, the military-industrial complex is called such for a reason. It's a complex 100%. For a reason. So, like, the DoD might not technically be a company, but look who's benefiting from all of that, and look who.
Big Five.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And who has the most policy exemptions?
Exactly. Yeah. If there are companies that are like benefiting immensely from all these activities that cause climate change, it's going to be really, really difficult to convince them to get on board with climate change because their profits are literally linked to all of these activities.
Sure. It's tough too when we have secretaries of states that are a part of these companies too, like Raytheon.
Yeah.
And
a thing that should be illegal, but it isn't, because who writes the laws?
Hey.
Right.
It becomes even harder to disentangle the militarism, or like the militarization of our civilian population, especially as we push forward more and more into the wars that are being fought today, and the disconnect between the people that think they know what war is and what wars actually look like today, especially as we're looking at getting into more over the horizon attacks, drone warfare, AI drone swarms. Like, we start looking at all the things that literally are just there to make war more palatable and easier to do and safer for our people to do. So as we get into more extraction in order to fuel the vehicles in the war machine in that way, we're going to be doing more climate change, and then we're sending more kids that are using Xbox controllers to pilot tanks in Afghanistan for things like that, to conduct these warfares. The last point on the list of things that Plantifa was reading from this document I have up on screen is: racism and racial oppression form the foundation of for both the extractive fossil fuel economy and the militarized economy. And that's absolutely true. Like, we are oppressing people around the world, right? The use of the oil. We have a well-known history for fighting wars for oil. That is inherently linked to this. And the Army, just 2 weeks ago, is saying that, oh, we're going to be testing our largest remote robot tank fielded military exercise within the next year, and is opening up the construction and building and development of robot man-machine interfaced tanks. We have dog drones that are running around New York City, and then at a military expo, they armed one with a sniper rifle. All of that is linked. What's that?
Saw that on Friday.
Yeah. Plan to cover that on Friday. Awesome show, by the way. Thank you. Like, all these things are inherently linked. As the larger the military is, the more climate change is occurring. You know who the villains in Independence Day were? The fucking aliens. You know what they did? They had a militarized society that went planet to planet and destroyed the planet for the natural resources. What do you think America is doing right now with the size of its military?
I actually found that line that I was originally looking for. So it really sums it up really, really well. It says the economic system that extracts finite resources such as fossil fuels, generates pollution and causes climate change, and exploits communities and workers is also a militarized economic system that profits from war and violence, and whether in distant lands like Afghanistan or in over-policed Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities at home. And that's like definitely linked to, like, if you look at what's happening at the border, how immigrants were literally whipped. I don't care that it wasn't technically a whip. I don't care that it wasn't technically a whip. I know it was the reins from the horse. Doesn't matter. They still used it like a whip.
Yeah.
So you're seeing increased violence, and increased policing. These people that are a direct result from climate crisis. It's linked. All of it's the same, and it's all based on an extractive economy that extracts resources and therefore uses those economic activity that relies on low income workers and an exploited class of people.
Yeah.
Capitalism and racism and oppression are inexplicably linked. That's why they call them or at least that's why in the circles I'm in, we call them interlocking forms of oppression, because they can't really be separated. This is why.
Where was that at in the document? I want to pull it up on screen just so people can read it.
Yeah, of course. Let me get back to it. Sorry. It is on page 7 under the graphic, under a just transition is a peaceful transition.
Is that underneath it? The economic system? Yes. Okay. Oh, there it is. I see it now. Highlight that for the people.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, and we lived through this at various points in time, right? And in our various ways that we were in the military with, going into places like Afghanistan during the Helmand Province push and setting up FOBs in the middle of farmland, right? Taking over 4 farms and being like, yep, this is now just a FOB because we decided we're going to hold this intersection. And we've destroyed the sustainability crops, like the literal food that people are eating. We are destroying their economics so that they can take it to town and sell it for other goods, their own food supply for the year. And we're displacing all of that just for the sake of the military. And that was just like one FOB. That, like, we talked about 700 to 800 military bases around the world. That doesn't include the little forward operating bases in the middle of an active combat zone inside an area of operations.
Yeah.
Right? Like CBs or construction battalion running around and doing long convoys and then digging down and building up fortified structures that don't count as military installations. So they're just lost. The DoD has never passed an audit. Nope. It's missing trillions of dollars, billions of dollars missing. Trillions of dollars missing because we lost.
Trillions.
Yeah, trillions are missing.
Trillions. the budget is like $700 billion. So like if they're not passing any audits on that, willing to put my next paycheck, and I put that in quotes because I don't actually work, I'm willing to put my next income to that. That is trillions.
Yeah. And then over the next 10 years is increasing. So
yes. Ugh, it's gross. It's so gross. And like, so, you know, line 3, you have all sorts of people saying, hey, no, actually, this is our land. Don't do this. Like, we do not want this pipeline. And what does the government do? But they send, you know, armed the state police to literally like abdicate for the company. Because why? They bought a permit, so they get to destroy it.
Even here in California, there's an indigenous land that they're trying to mine copper right now, and the indigenous people are like, "Fuck you! This is our land." And it is like, that's right. That is their land. That's the land that they were promised. That's the land they should keep. Like, we fucked them over enough. Leave them alone.
Yeah, the least we can do is just like not do that. Like the absolute bare minimum least.
Bare minimum. Yeah, just bare minimum. God, common decency.
Just respect what's already put in place.
Greed will always overshadow integrity.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that's fair. Yeah.
And the state will back it up.
Every freaking time. I was having a discussion with someone yesterday about it'd be so much easier if we just start communes, but you can't start communes because they're against the law because the government can't make money off of them. Like, all full self-sustaining, everything that's at least in where I'm in the states around me, anything that's self-sustaining is pretty much illegal. You can't collect rainwater. You can't have your own solar set up.
The utility companies can't make money, so it's illegal. What? How is that? How does that make sense? Like, literally, there's a big like local effort around me, around Boulder. It's called Bedrooms Are for People, because Boulder has a ordinance that you cannot have more than, I think it's more than 5 unrelated people in, or more than 4. It's a ridiculous like low number unrelated people in one household. Which is bullshit. And yeah, it's really like like when it first started, it was like explicitly targeting the queer community, first of all, and second of all, it like rent is super high, so everybody has roommates. But if you're a landlord, let's say, you can't rent to say 6 college kids that just aren't really, you can't. It's illegal, and that to me is completely asinine, because like working in that kind of an environment where you share with more people is absolutely more sustainable than living in single family homes with like 2, 3, 4 people, and the next home there has 2 people, the next home there has a family of 4. Like, it is much more sustainable to live in like multifamily homes, but in so many places that's illegal or zoning laws prevent it. Like, so it's like on a local and on a grand scale set up in a way to be unsustainable. That's what needs to change.
Yeah.
In addition to anti-militarism.
What?
Philadelphia has a houseless population of roughly 10,000. There are 40,000 homes that like Philadelphia Housing Authority owns and is not doing anything with, other than auctioning them off to the highest gentrifying buyer. And that is gentrification in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah. So literally, they could take a quarter of those homes, and they could still auction off the other 30,000, and being the greedy cunts that they are.
Yep.
And give away a quarter of them, just to people who need it. They don't have to give away a quarter. House them appropriately. 4 or 5 to a house, however many rooms there are. You don't have to give away that many. I mean, granted, they should each have their right. We're in a different discussion, but house them.
Yeah. Los Angeles has a huge problem. And with us, we're changing the Air Force Base into a Space Force base, and it's like, oh yay, let's go ahead and accept more military money. Like, it's going to create more jobs.
And
but we have
like more on that, like creating changing the Air Force to the Space Force, and all of that, like that technology requires rare minerals. Like computer chips, anything that you need to make an AI with, any robot, any like sophisticated piece of technology, even like I'm not going to shit on NASA. I am not that person, trust me. But it is important to remember that these things require minerals that are extracted from typically developing or poor countries, and using cheap labor that usually borders on slave labor for slave wages, et cetera, et cetera. So even just doing something like that on its surface might seem like it's good, might seem like scientific progress, is actually just going to fuel the process, fuel the climate crisis even more, because it's still extractive. It's still based on a system that requires an exploited lower class that can be coerced with violence to still do what we want.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think humans will ever evolve out of that mentality, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Cargo, you got something? It looked like you had something to say, Cargo.
Oh no, it was that.
Oh. So, solutions. Who has an idea for solutions? What's something one of our viewers can do right now, like that is an adaptable solution for them, like to at least feel give our viewers some hope, please.
Harass your representatives, and by harass I mean email them every day, call every day, or every other day, whenever you have the energy, whenever you're doing nothing. When I broke my ankle and I was kind of out of commission for a while, I took a lot of baths just kind of to pass time because I couldn't do a lot else, and that's what I would sit in the bath and I would email my representatives constantly and call them constantly. I was that annoying one. They probably knew my number by then, like by a certain point. Do that, harass them. Like COP26 is like literally coming up. It's like, I need you to call Kerry and tell him he needs to actually say something worthwhile as opposed to just like platitudes. Like harass them, harass your local your local government for composting and recycling. Yes, I know they don't do anything, but still do it. Still harass them for sustainable like city planning. Like go to your local town halls. They are usually open to the public typically, and you can just hop on the Zoom call and say stuff. Do that. Like make sure the voices that are like, I have $1 million home and I don't want any of this like progress stuff. Shut them up. Like harass them.
Hashtag eat the rich.
Hashtag eat the rich. Yeah. Basically is what I'm getting at. But those are like the little small things that you as an individual can do. If you find like local actions in your community that are based around sustainability and are based around these like kinds of change, there is strength in numbers. So go with those organizations and do that. Don't let people join the military anymore. Anti-militarism. Join us.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
Join Veterans for Peace. Let's see. Currently, Veterans for Peace has a petition to carry with a list of our demands, and you could sign that petition today. Go to veteransforpeace.org and sign that petition, and let Senator Kerry know that these are our demands, and these are things that are doable. They're not hard demands. They're very easy to go through, and they're very easy to talk to every single other country at the COP and tell them like, hey, these are demands that my people want, and these are demands that we can do.
One thing I can think about is make sure the social media platforms you follow, different ways in which you get your news, just basically making sure you don't forget about it. It's easy to not let it get into your day-to-day thoughts, into your day-to-day routine. So I know social media has to be a place for fun, a place for like dealing with life, because life's terrible. But like every sixth thing you like, make it like something impactful, make it something you care about, make it one of these. And then you remember when these things happen. And then when you do have that moment to like, oh, I can actually spend a few extra minutes to write my representative. I can take that a few extra minutes to share this so that other people know about it. Like, I think being aware of the issues, that's how they get most of the stuff by us, is we just don't know. It's basically, we don't get invited to the meeting. We don't even get told about the meeting. The meeting's not advertised. So like, I think that's the biggest thing. So like, follow the accounts that will keep you up to date. And then when you do have that moment where you can act, that moment where you can share, that moment where you can do a thing, it's at the tip of your finger instead of something you don't see.
I think as more millennials and Zoomers partake in the Great Resignation, which I love that name, I'm here for the great resignation. As that continues to happen and people are standing up to management and the demands of capitalism and life under capitalism, time is freeing up for a lot of people in certain ways, right? A lot of people are doing some more self-care and taking time for themselves and setting up some appropriate boundaries. So that makes those meetings more accessible. Like, unfortunately, people are going to suffer as they are leaving their jobs. But if we are there, if somebody is handing them, hey, no, you're not working right now. Now you can attend this school board meeting that is in the middle of the afternoon, this PTA meeting. Now you can go to your representatives, the councils or community councils, whatever. If you can attend these now, because that's where we need you at. We understand that you're leaving the workforce. We want to give you some hope. Here's time to change. Like, here's how we actually get changed, so you have a job that you want to go back to and have an environment. And that's what you can do with that newfound power that you set by declaring your boundaries and and actively deciding. We as generations, as millennials, Zoomers, Gen Xers, we have to decide that we will not continue the process by which the United States has been ran and the world has been ran by the previous generations. Like, we have to make that conscious decision to go, hey, capitalism is keeping you in the workplace till you're 60, 70, 80 years old. It's time for you to, we should adjust this and fix it so that you can retire and enjoy life. There's other ideas coming in. We need to enable these things, and by declaring and taking back some of that power from capitalism, from the workforce, from these places, and putting it into our local communities and mutual aid and things like that, that's how we'll actually make a difference. And I hope that more people get involved, both politically and electorally, because it's important to do that. That's the brakes on the system to make sure we save as many lives as possible. But we also need to be doing community aid and mutual aid to actually address the material conditions of the people that are nearest and dearest to us, and developing those families and communities that capitalism and the American way has stretched to the absolute thinnest imaginable point. So get involved in your local communities, plant a tree, drink water, go to your community meetings, and do everything that everybody else said on this panel too. That's my advice. Maybe I'll follow Myron sometime. Maybe I'll follow everybody's at some point in time in the near future. It'll happen one day.
I mean, I wasn't going to say anything. No.
Shut up. Go away. Done. All right. With that, we're a little bit over our normal show time this evening. Does anybody have some closing remarks they want to say before we take us out? Or anybody else have any COP26 climate change goodness that they want to talk about that we didn't touch on?
I just hope something comes of this.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the People Summit, which is also something that's happening. It's all the activists coming together, and they're talking about all the issues that need to be talked about inside COP26. So pay attention to the People Summit. That's November 9th through the 12th, I believe. And and then just pay close attention to what's happening at COP26, because that's what's going to be shaping what's happening.
Yeah, and we're pretty much against crunch time. I mean, several scientists have said it. It's so
yeah.
I'm dropping a link for the People's Summit. You can hit that link, check it out. There's also links there for the Climate Change and Militarism Project done through VFP, along with a link to that petition to carry. So all those links are down in chat. Please check them out at your earliest convenience. Anybody else got anything? So in Cargo, where can people find you? This is your first time streaming up with us. How can everybody stay in touch with you if they love your dulcet tones?
I'll be honest. Are you looking for my address? Because I'll put it out there, but
please don't dox yourself.
Don't dox yourself.
Look, if somebody's gonna do it, might as well be yourself.
That's true.
Look, anybody who's got the balls to show up where I live, more power to you.
I'm around, I'm new to social media, Discord, all the things. So but I'm in the Veterans for Peace Discord channel, so feel free to hit me up there. Feel free to try to find me on social media. I'm really hard to miss with the pirate look I have going right now, so you know. But yeah,
you fit right
I'm
in.
always willing to chat, connect, whatever. So
nice.
also, if you know Phoenix can get a hold of me in like a half a second. So
sounds good.
Oh,
Phoenix,
that guy? Oh,
that guy.
Oh,
Man,
he's terrible.
We're really tired of having Phoenix around. Honestly, it's just
Wait, in fact,
it's just not working out any
him
longer.
Yeah, you're kind of. This is your audition to replace him.
Yes, you didn't know that. So I have one last treat for everybody. You know what? Because climate change sucks. Let's just look at these pandas for a couple minutes and say hi, pandas. And
also, if you're a member of Veterans for Peace, please vote. Voting ends soon, and and vote for me. Vote for Phoenix.
I was gonna say, are you plugged in here?
Cat Vet just said that the link was for the 2017 People Summit.
I just saw. It says Global People Summit. Is that the one you're thinking of? I corrected it. I think this is it.
Cool. Never mind then.
It's on our webpage. I know that much.
Okay, cool.
Wait, is this not it? Nope.
I don't. You put pandas on the screen, and
I put pandas on the screen, and pandas just take it. Pandas take the win. All right. Anyway, everybody, this has been Gamers for Peace. Thanks for joining us for this Mindfulness Monday, and we'll be back next week with Phoenix. Speak of the devil. Phoenix back with Mental Health Monday next week. We have D&D tomorrow night. It's actually the continuation of our Cyberpunk series, Purple Slushies and Blood. And Military Ad Slam on Friday. This Thursday, join us for the Lemma Circle if you're interested in getting more involved with Gamers for Peace and the stuff that we're talking about here, and get involved in the organizing / activism side of things beyond just the stream and want to know what's going on. Join us on the Lemma Circle. It is our open public meeting where we talk about what we're doing, the direction of Gamers for Peace, and plan the future. So conversations will be had. We'll be here on Thursday for that. But we'll see you then. Say goodnight to the pandas and goodnight everybody else.
Night, pandas.
Peace. Fuck war.
I'm going to peace sign to you. Just can't see.